Okay, friends, it's a big siyata d'shmaya. I have a lot to share today, and we were talking about Makir Makomo, and we wanted to go deep last time and figure out a bunch of ways that we're, kind of not being Makir Makomo, that we're not being so real with ourselves and not so emistic and all that. And um, did you hear all that, Aaron? Nothing got cut off, right? Okay, good. I have an appointment right after this, so I'm just making sure that it doesn't get canceled again. Someone 178 kilometers away by a digital dietitian appointment. Okay, so anyway, friends, so we're talking about Makir Makomo and the fact that we don't necessarily deeply or Makir Makomo, and the way that we were taking it was basically that's what the Maral shared us was because it's not emes. That's the point, right? The Yesod of Torah is emes. What we look for Torah is emes. What we look for learning is the truth. Not say fancy things, not say nice things, not say, I sometimes have to tell you, I get annoyed when people say, "Oh, that's such a beautiful shot." I mean, I like it because it's like it's nice, but the point of Torah isn't necessarily beauty; it's emes. First, it's emes, then it can be beautiful, and that's always has to be remembered. Just one second. So, and now the point is, if someone's not makir makomo, you don't know your place, so you're totally mixed up with Torah because you'll learn things, you'll say things, but you're on a basis, on a basis, on a foundation of not truthfulness. And if you're on a basis of not truthfulness, you'll eventually not be truthful and you won't get Torah right and you'll be off. So it's not going to work well. That's the idea. Now, here's the beauty. And it just I consider this very big siyata d'shmaya that this came out now because everybody's been following, right? We've just been going through the Middos and spending a certain amount of an undescript amount of time on one Midah and sometimes skipping. And Dafki, here we are on the verge of the 9 days, and we're dealing with Makar Makomo. And it's so relevant right now because I think, in a simple way, that's what the Makar Makomo, on a certain level, is what the 3 weeks are all about. And the whole idea of 9 days in Tisha B'Av is all about. What do I mean? Rav Shimshon Pinkus Zatzal had a beautiful mashal, a powerful mashal, right? A true mashal. And his mashal was like this. You have someone who, lo aleinu, I'll say it in my words, I don't know how he said it originally. You have someone who is a great athlete, could jump high, kick a ball far, score, accuracy, hand-eye coordination, speed, all the things. And lo aleinu, he has a strong accident and he becomes a paraplegic, which means that he's cut off from his legs. Can't run anymore. He's in a wheelchair. And he's battling to learn how to take a step or half a step, etc. And he one time after months and months and months of physical therapy takes a half a step, and the family is clapping, and his wife is tears of joy, and he's happy, and he looks up with a smile through his sweat. You can imagine the picture, and this goes on and on and on. But then there's like one time a year, the day of the accident, when they look and they remember, he remembers and she remembers like what he once was, and they break down crying. And that moment, I think that really says it well. And I want to take the mushal in a full way because I think it's important for us to remember that the 3 weeks is the 3 weeks. And while for sure there's an of churban abayis on a person's mind all the time, it's brought quite early in Shulchan Aruch, and a person should have in mind in Yerushalayim Ircha and Re'er and Yenu and in Esemach David, the ideas of Mashiach and Nechama and Im Lo Eshkech Yerushalayim Tishkach Yimini, that we are on our lips at every chasana, and we leave over an am in our houses, etc. For sure, Yerushalayim is on our minds, but definitely, the average very very good Jew is focused on building and things like that. But we spend these 3 weeks and we spend these 9 days, and certainly Tisha B'av and Erev Tisha B'av and Shavuot Shechalbo, the week that Tisha B'av falls in it, to really intensify ourselves and be makir makomo and recognize how far off we are from what it's supposed to be. Just like that mashal, right? In a certain way, we are paraplegic compared to what we could be spiritually, compared to what life is like with the Beis Hamikdash. We come into that, and through that hakara, that reminds us of who we can be, and then we know what we're trying to get to, and we don't get lost. Like maybe, when we say Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem, renew our days like the old times. What does that mean? The old times means at the same time, I believe a person has to be forward looking and believe in the generation, etc. But just this, sometimes you people say like we're the greatest generation that ever was. More people learning, more tzedakah given. You sometimes feel that they're lacking the whole picture. There are great things going on in a generation, but there's a lot lacking. The level of Torah and the level of kedusha and what we're involved in. I hate to tell you this, but the level that the World Cup is spoken about and known in yeshivas. I don't mean my yeshiva, but I'm talking about yeshivas where 20, 30 years ago it was never mentioned. And now it's what we call Tovis Makom. That's Avodas Hashem. I have nothing against them, but I tell everybody all the time, I'm an athlete, I understand it, etc. I get sports, I enjoy sports, but it's not what we're about during the 3 weeks. And that I don't want to go into the details. I don't want to say Lashon Hara any particular institution, but there's a lot of problems in Klal Yisrael. I don't want to be mekatrei, so I'm not going to go into it. But we have to be aware of that. And the 3 weeks is what tells us that, hey, we're deeply missing. So if you think about it, coming from that perspective, the 3 weeks is all about being Makar Makomo and not getting lost in the headiness of, wow, I'm doing great things for Klal Yisrael. I'm learning, I'm working, I'm supporting my family. Beautiful. But a big, big but compared to what it was when we had Nevi'im in the streets and when we even compared to what it was, the levels that we had in Europe on a lot of levels. And I know there was a lot of secularization in Europe. I'm well aware, right? But I also Makal from my Rabbeim, Revolba, who was there and here. The Avodas Hashem is very, very sharp, and that's it. Yeah. Rav Leichter went into this in a certain way, also in a beautiful way, in his shiurim recently, which I don't hear, but I get write-ups of similar types of emphasis. The Sefer of Yisrael in Parshas Pinchas calls Tammuz and Av Einayim, eyes. So I want to understand that in a similar way. Obviously, he's talking on a mystical level, on a Kabbalistic level. Well, let's call it maybe simply on a pneumistic level, on an inner level. But I want to understand it on an outward level, and I was very, very happy with this. I think I'm going to say this next week in the shmooze, my shmooze that in the yeshiva that these are einayim. This time lets us see things for what they really are and get out of our funk and get out of our fog to think that everything's good. Just like another Russian would be like an alcoholic. I'm fine. I'm in control. I control my liquor. Yeah, until your wife walks out and you walk home and your wife and the drawers are empty, and you realize, oh, I'm not fine. So we need that. We need this makir makomo time. We need this time to recognize that things aren't fine, that we're not beseder. I want to say it in one more way. That same piece in the Ohev Yisrael, Parshas Pinchas, speaks about that there are 21 days now. Of course, there are 3 weeks is 21 days. And he says there are 21 days of Yom Tov. It's an interesting way that makes the Cheshbon. Shabbos he counts as one. Shabbos and like 21 special days. As Rosh Chodesh he counts as one. And you go through there are 8 days of 8 days of Sukkot and Shmini Atzeres, 7 days of Pesach. That's 1 day of Yom Kippur, and 2 days. He counts 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. I don't know why he was allowed to count 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, but that's what the holy of Yisrael did. 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. And that comes out altogether as 21. And he says the Shorish, the Mikorim and the Shorashim, the Mikor, the source and the root of the 21 Yomim Tovim are these 21 days. Now, what's the idea of that? Again, he means on a pneumistic level that really they're very, very high. And I see another story talking about it, that these are very, very basically high days that it just got covered up. But I want to understand it on a more Musar level, that Vort, on a Musar level, on a more practical level, that these 21 days, the Sharish, like if you don't know what you're missing, then you don't know what you're getting, right? If you don't appreciate the Chiddush of Yom Tov, like here we are. We need this time to understand what we need these einayim. We need to see ourselves through the eyes of Tammuz and Av. We need to live the 3 weeks and appreciate that things aren't okay and that we're not beseda and that we're terribly lacking and things are far off from the way we want them to be in order to build and be right and fit for Yom Tov. In order to build, in order to appreciate Yom Tov. Otherwise, Yom Tov we don't appreciate what Yom Tov is either. Eshe b'choshev Hashem orli. I sit in darkness, Hashem is light to me. So I'm very happy about this. I think it's real siyata shmaya that we ran into working on Makir Maskoma when I think this is the time for us to be Makir Makomo as a nation, as people, and the Hakaras HaMakom for sure is without the Beis HaMikdash. And I'll add, don't just, I think it's lacking just to understand as Beis HaMikdash without the lacking of the house. Oh, I mean, this house. Beis HaMikdash is representative of us, as it says, Heichal, as the pasuk says, the Nefesh HaChaim brings, Heichal Hashem Hema. Heichal Hashem, the tabernacle of God is us, is the Jewish people. Everybody knows Vasoli Mikdash Shachanti Besocham, and as the Nefesh HaChaim says, Mefurish, that if the Beis HaMikdash is busted, and it means that we're busted. It's not just the house. It's a sign. The house is a sign of where we are. The Jewish people, on a certain level of this house, what we're interested in, the Hashpas HaGoyim, how much the Goyim are on us, how much our minds are in Torah, how small we are in Torah, how big we could be in Torah, how small we are in Avodah, how big we could be in Avodah, how small our tefillah is, how big it could be. This is together with all the beautiful things. All year round, we focus on the beautiful things. But like that mashal we started with, but in 3 weeks, you have to realize, and it's a hard thing. And like this says, people shy away from it because they don't like to feel bad. But hafuch, we have to feel bad in order to feel good. We have to go through this period. I want to add one more Mamar Koma, then I'm going to get to the Kabbalah. There's an unbelievable drush. I'm sure you can find it online. I have it at home. I don't know where it is online, but by Rabbi Yaakov Weinberg, the Rosh Yeshiva, former Rosh Yeshiva. I mean, he passed away as Rosh Yeshiva. He passed away a long time ago already. Of Ner Yisrael, where he talks about the absolute necessity of this time. Everything I'm saying in a lot sharper way, and he was one of the first who got me on this mahalach. Noah Yisrael, I think, dresses it up in a very, very nice way. But he really speaks about this. Like, without this time, we're lost. If we don't realize how bad we are, we need this time nationally. Without this time, we'd be totally messed up. Our whole basis for everything is off and out and mixed up because we don't know who we are, right? I'll give one more mashal. It's like, don't even talk about the person who is a paraplegic. Talk about the person who is sitting in a wheelchair, but doesn't realize he doesn't have to be in the wheelchair. But he gets so happy with the fact he's in the wheelchair. He can go fast with his arms, and he has strong arms. His legs are withering away, and he has to work so hard to get anywhere. And he's so happy. Look, Baruch Hashem, you don't get it, dude. You have legs. Get out of the wheelchair. I mean, this is just wheelchair life. You have to understand that the life we have now is wheelchair life compared to what Klal Yisrael can be, compared to when we have Nevuah, and we had many people walking around knowing Shas, and we had many Madrichim and Avodas Hashem, and we had and things like the World Cup didn't speak to us, and Gashmias, people going into debt didn't speak to us for a wedding and looking over our shoulders and speak to us. All we wanted was to be close to the Rebbeinu Shalom. What more do we need in life? Why in the world is there betting? There's a lot of betting going on in the Jewish world. What's that about? Why are we betting? Why are people making money betting? That's not a Yiddish zach. Come on, betting and alcohol. All this stuff means there's something empty inside of us that we're not. We have the Eibishter. You need a drink to feel happy. Have to light up. You have to. What is that? I need to feel self-confidence because Argentina wins. That's what, as a Jew, that's what you need. I'm talking to myself. I mean, not Argentina, but right. You need covet. We have the Rebbeinu Shalom. We have Torah. But our life is very, very, very small today because we don't feel good and we don't feel complete without a drink, without a lot of gashmias, without covet, without being even to our neighbors, because we're lacking inside in a big way. So that's just that. Now, what does this have to do? So here's the Kabbalah, and I'm going to ask everybody to really dig in, and I think it's a good time to dig in. First is, I want to ask 4 questions. How much more each of us to think over this week, how much more you could be in 4 different areas? Think about one area which is close to you, one area which is far from you, right? If I would learn more Gemara, let's say, if that's what's close to you, right? How much better I could be if I would learn more Gemara. Or let's say if Musar is far away from you. So think how much better I could be if I learned a Mussar Seder once a day, that type of thing. Again, I'm not just giving suggestions, not telling you what to think, just to see what I mean. And one in avoidant, if I could avoid this thing, if I could stop speaking Lashon Hara or some other thing, how much greater I could be if I would build myself. And as I wanted to vary it, right? 4 different areas. Think to yourself, 4 different areas. How I could be to be Makir Makomo. That's part of being Makir Makomo. I am here. I could be so much more. If I was more X, and if I was more in this area which is far away from me, or if I was more in this area which is close to me, or if I was more avoiding a certain thing, or if I was more building in a certain area, right? Try to expand it to really think about ourselves, how we could imagine ourselves over the week and through this as being in a different place, right? I'll give you an example for myself. I started learning Nach, it's known, and now Baruch Hashem saying Shurim. So, but for years I didn't. Now I see, wow, it's such a different world. It's like it's setting such a geschmack out of it. And I think, thank God, I'm Zochah to now teach it to other people also. But for years, I didn't do that. I could have been doing that. Maybe there's something else like that. I don't know if I could take on another shir right now. I'm over my, but think about an area, right? Then think about an area that you're not touching right now, which is shaykh for you to touch. And your avoda, it could be in tefillah, it could be coming early to davening, staying late, saying tikkun chatzos. I don't know what. I don't want to put words in people's mouth. I'm just thinking, or if I could really avoid this thing, I overeat and that sets my whole Shabbos off. I would just get over that, then I'd be so much better. Okay, so that's in ourselves, 4 areas. Look for something that at least one maybe there could be an overlap, but at least something a closer area to you, a further area to you. One, how much better I could be if I was avoiding something. One, how much better I could be if I were building this area. Think about your community. How much greater my community could be if we would, right? This I live in no one's talking about being critical. We're talking about trying to build Kleister, right? I live in a beautiful community, but if we would be more, the community would be even better, right? Don't worry, I'm not making it. No one has to make an organization after this and change the world, etc. Just to get a picture, right? If my shul would, it would be on a whole different realm. Let's say I give you an example, right? I know I don't in a place where there's no rub. I think there'd be a rub. There'd be a very different shul, right? So that would be an example. Uh, could be the members of the show wouldn't like if there was a rub. I don't know, but that's the kind of thing. Like it's or my shul. It's very very nice. But if there was learning, we got to get during this period. We have to imagine a bigger Klal Yisrael. How much more Klal Yisrael could be if right the Jewish people on a whole. If there was more X, how would it be? And then this is a sensitive one, but I think this could also think about a certain individual. Certain individual that how much more this person could be if he would. If this guy would just go to yeshiva, or this girl would just go to seminary, or my son would just. Why am I saying all this? This is all about being makar makomo, recognizing our place. And I think I was thinking like this. I'll share one other thing, and then I'm going to go over the list one more time, and then we'll be finished. I have to go, but I think part of we always talk about. I think the superficial thing to say already is we can't connect to the 3 weeks because we never had a base of mikdash, and therefore it's so far from us, etc. That's not untrue, but I think the problem is deeper. I think the problem is we're too happy with who we are. We're happy because our Jewish life is good, right? Not just because even gosh, even our, we like. Do you really need a base of mikdash? I mean, I learn, I teach, I'm good. I got Parnassa, I got Shabbos. I don't just mean because I like Gashmis, but part of the problem is we don't want the base of Mikdash because we don't want more. It's not that we don't know the base of Mikdash. It's that we don't know more than what we know. That's the point. Aaron, you hear the point? You hear the difference? And that's super. Everybody says that. I can't imagine the base of Mikdash. But you don't want the base of Mikdash if you're totally satisfied with yourself. So these are the times we're not supposed to be satisfied ourselves. So we have to start getting out of our head. It's a time to think about Makir Makomo of how to be bigger, right? How can I be different in 4 areas? Right? What 4 areas would I do? I'm not saying you have to act on it, but just to imagine and to picture, to get out of this mitzumtzum, to get out of this small headspace that we're all in, to start to appreciate, what we're lacking. I could be much bigger in X area or Y area. Don't necessarily say Yerushalmi. If you're struggling with Daf Yomi, Yerushalmi is not the answer for you, right? But think about something which is, far from you and something which is closer to you, something which is negative, something which is positive. If I would be careful about this, it would be very different. If I would build more in this way, it would be very different. And then what can I do for my community that would be what could not what I could do for my community, but if my community was my shul or the city I live in, the area I live in, the neighborhood, shul or neighborhood, Klal Yisrael as a whole, what would be really big? What would be big for Klal Yisrael? There'd be a changer that appears to me. And finally, to take an individual or two and think about them, because that's what we want. We have to. We can't mourn if we don't want more. You mourn for someone because you relate to them, you miss the world with them. We can't miss the Beis Hamikdash. We can't miss Binyan Yerushalayim. We can't miss Amma of the Aretz if we don't realize that we could be more. So that was my thinking. I think it dovetails very nice with the times we're in, and with Makir Makomo. We're taking the vote of Makir Makomo. We're blowing it up, and we'll see where we go next week with our last VOD on this topic. Thank you very much. I got to go, and Hatzlacha to everybody. We should see during these weeks of Chorban and Binyan. Chorban and Binyan. That's what it's all about. Destruction and Binyan. You have to be into destruction. You have to be into Binyan. To be into both. And part of destruction is to be Makir Makoma, to know where we're at. Okay, all the best, everybody. Shalom, shalom.